Hey guys, it's Comic Crack. Another movie talk episode. We're going to look at a couple of different things, some books, but I just wanted to start off the video. If you watched any of the LP Crackle videos, you've seen this record in there. It's from a band called SLINT, and this is their album Spiderland. Those of you who follow me on Google or whatever, we're friends on Google+, I just posted a link to a YouTube trailer that I just saw today, actually, on a Tumblr, one of the Tumblr sites that I follow. It's a trailer for a documentary about this band and the music scene that they were in at the time. Looks fantastic. I don't know tons about the band. I know that they were young when they did it. I guess they were like teenagers when they were in this band and had recorded these albums. There's some live footage in the documentary as well of like basement rehearsals, which looks unbelievable. And yeah, so it looks really, really cool. So I'm gonna leave a link in the description to the trailer, but if you know this band, you'll be excited about the little documentary. If you don't know the band, check it out anyway. Have a little look, have a listen, find some of their tunes. Yeah, so that's that. So I just wanted to talk about some of the books that turned me on to the whole idea of digging and trying to discover some of these Japanese movies, and then maybe show you a couple of books too that might be interesting to you if you're either new to it, you don't know anything, you're just starting out and don't know anything about it, or maybe you have some experience and you just want some interesting further reading. So we'll start off with this book. It's called Tokyo Scope, the Japanese cult film companion, written by a guy, Patrick Macias, I believe. Forward by Kinji Fukasaku and the afterword by Takashi Miike. Pulp, I think it was Pulp that put it out. Let's have a look on the inside. It's 2001, and Cadence Books, it says, from San Francisco. Their website is www.pulp-mag.com. And they had a magazine too that was called, I think it was called Pulp as well, that was kind of a collection of some manga and stuff like that. So this was the first one that I got. I got it when it came out. I was living in Ontario. It was an incredible, and just looking through it again today as I was kind of preparing for this, it's still a really, really interesting book. And I'm going to have a read of it again, I think, because there's some interviews I'd like to reread now that I know a little more about some of the directors and things. The thing that's fantastic about this book is its kind of simplicity, and it can be kind of considered a plus and a minus. I mean, it's kind of a minus because it doesn't go into great detail about the movies or the directors or the genres, but in a way, that's kind of a plus, especially if you're starting out. You get just some nuggets. You get a couple of what he considers highlights from each of the genres. You get a little bit of like an interview or overview of either a director or an actor that was prevalent in the genres that he talks about. And then, as you'll see, we'll just kind of get into it and I'll show you. So, what good book on Japanese films wouldn't talk about the kaiju eiga, so the giant monster movies. There's a chapter on Sonny Chiba. Shogun Assassin, there's a chapter on horror, chapter on Yakuza films. Kinji Fukasaku gets a chapter, movies that were banned, and then finally we get into the pink and violent. So the pinky violent and oh no, not finally. So then there's Panic and Disaster and Miike and Riki. So starts off with an introduction. Then we get a giant monsters chapter where it kind of gives you an overview of the genre, and then talks about obviously, well, in this obviously Godzilla, Gojira, from 1954, Toho. For every film, it gives you the year, the studio, the director, and then gives you the cast, and then gives you a very, very, very brief description. And then at the bottom, it gives you this one, original Japanese version available as import only. At the time that this came out, it was giving you, here we go, for Godzilla vs. Monster Zero, for example, available dubbed on DVD from Scimitar Videos. Sorry, that's not focusing there very well. There we go. So it kind of tells you where you could find the film at that time. And now, obviously, in the years that have passed, especially when it comes to the Godzilla, there was the giant Godzilla box set. They've reissued and re-released a whole bunch of Godzilla films. So there's a chunk of these movies that are in here that now are a lot easier to find, which is, I think, just a sign of the times. At this time, it's not that this was the one time when Japanese film kind of hit the mainstream, I guess, but this was definitely a turning point as far as we talked about in the Criterion videos, Criterion making it a point of releasing some harder to find movies, including some Japanese cinema. There was Asian Cult Cinema magazine, which I think is still going. There's a couple of specialty magazines, and then there was a couple of specialty DVD companies that were also focusing on Asian cinema and re-releasing Asian films. But around that time was definitely when it was getting bigger, so this book came at a perfect time, especially for me, who was just discovering and getting into more depth on some of the films covered in here. Godzilla vs. Biollante, Gamera 3, Dark Soldier D. So for everyone, it just gives a little, like I said, just very brief review. And then there's some artwork. The Daimajin trilogy and the making of Godzilla vs. the Smog Monster, interview with Yoshimitsu Banno. So there we have that. And then we get into Viva Chiba, Sonny Chiba. Another guy that, yeah, just great films. At the same time, I still have it. There was a mini kind of box set of, I think, 4 or 5 of his movies that I bought. It was really, really cheap. And then all of a sudden, Sonny Chiba movies started popping up all over the place. And then he appeared in one of the Kill Bills as well, which was, I think it was the first one, which was pretty exciting, going to the theater and seeing, because I specifically didn't look into Kill Bill before I went to see it, so I wanted to kind of be surprised by everything about it. So seeing his name appear on the screen was a real good thrill. So The Bodyguard, just fantastic. Street Fighter, which is mind-blowing. Champion of Death, direct hit. Gogo 13, Dragon Princess. So he also talks about stuff that's not available. As we saw with the Godzilla one, it wasn't available at the time. So he doesn't shy away from that too. If it's not readily available, he still reviews it, which also was pretty great for me too, because it kind of wanted to get me digging into finding some of these films. So here we have the horror section, again another overview, and then we talk about some movies: Claws of Iron, The Ghost of Yotsuya, Gokei, Body Snatcher from Hell, Attack of the Mushroom People, which is a pretty great one, Tokyo, The Last Megapolis, Hausu, which Criterion released. So there you go, and at the time it was import only, but now you can find it on Criterion Collection, and it's so good. It is so crazy and so entertaining. Mermaid in a Manhole, The Ring, Uzumaki, which is another brilliant one. I love that movie. So yeah, so there we go. Just a quick overview. So like I said, there's a Yakuza. If you don't know much about the genre, I think this is a great book to get your hands on. 1995 US, 3250, and look at the difference then, hey? Jesus. Now we're pretty much on par. I'd say hunt for it. I don't know if it's out of print or what, or if there's another print that's out, or you'd have to kind of search for that yourself. But if you just want a brief overview, this is the book. Really easy to digest. And then from here you can jump off and kind of explore other genres and stuff. Now, if you want to go a step up from there, this is another one that I have by a guy, Chris D, who I believe was a writer for the Asian Cult Cinema magazine. Now, I don't know if he was the guy who put together the magazine or not, but his name also appears on a lot of the DVDs that I have. When there's commentaries, he's kind of the go-to guy, or at least he was anyway, for a commentary track to give you kind of the history of the film or the director and stuff like that. So this one is really, really good as well. The only difference, I mean, they still hit a lot of the big names. They talk about Sonny Chiba, they talk about Miko Kaji. Let's see. Let's just go to the beginning. This one, let's see if we can find a year on this one. Sorry, give me 1 second here. So, published in 2005 by I.B. Torres and Co. London. www.ibtauris.com. And yeah, so there you go. So we have a chapter on Kinji Fukasaku, Ichi Kudo, Sunichi Chiba, Miko Kaji, Junya Sato, Kihachi Okamoto, etc., etc., Seijin Suzuki, Teru Ishii, Koji Wakamatsu, and Takashi Miike, and a couple of others. So this one gets into a little bit more detail when talking about the films. It really goes over the life and the filmography of the person that they're focusing on. So Kinji Fukasaku is the first one. So you get a little more detail. Again, it's a few of the bigger names. But if you're new to the genre, they're all odd. They're all not big names, because you don't. Here, I'm gonna try that shit again. That's the worst. Should I try that again, or should I just go? Sometimes my tongue just gets tied and my mind is going, and it just sounds like absolute fucking nonsense coming out of my mouth. Anyway, they're bigger names when you get into the genre and when you get into the world of the Asian cinema. But when you're just approaching it, it's a really good start. Again, they really hit on some great guys, and guys like Fukasaku and Takashi Miike, they have a huge catalog. Same with Sonny Chiba, same with Miko Kaji as for actors. So it still gives you a lot. And then what they have at the end is a complete, they say complete filmography. I don't know how complete, but there you go anyway. So, and you can see guys like Fukasaku, like 1961, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's 5 movies in 1961, 2 of them in 1962. A lot of these guys, they did a hell of a lot of movies. Again, because there were a lot of studio directors where they would just get these scripts and be expected to film them. So in 1968, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1974, 1, 2, 3. You know, so they're doing kind of on average 2 to 4 movies a year. And then as his career came close to the end, it was a couple of less. The one that, if you know Battle Royale is where you'd know Kinji Fukasaku from most famously. That one kind of made its way all around the world. And then a bit of an interview with him as well, talking about his career and films that he's worked on and that sort of thing. Let's have a look at a couple other chapters here. Sonny Chiba. Let's have a look at Miko Kaji. Maybe I will kind of transition this one into a review, because I really want to talk to you about one of her films, or a series of her films, but one specifically. So in 1972, see at the bottom there, female convict number 71, or 701 rather, Scorpion, Sasori. And then in 1972, she did female convict Scorpion, Jailhouse 41. 1973 were the last two. Now, I thought it was a 5-part series, but according to this filmography, it was 4. So I'm going to take this as the truth. I only have 3 of them, but so female convict Scorpion, Department of Beasts, and female convict Scorpion number 701's Song of Hate. Let's just see. Yeah, Department of Beasts. Maybe that is that one. Maybe it just went by a different title. So that might be this one, Beast Stable, as opposed to Department of Beasts. Anyway, I wanted to talk to you about this series. Again, when I was just discovering the whole world of Asian cinema and getting my mind blown on a regular basis as far as I was seeing these movies, and just being blown away by the originality, the absurdity of some of them, the absolute craziness, the imagination, the whole other world, that you'll recognize that guy there, the whole other world of movies that I just didn't know existed, like, to this depth. I saw this one, female convict Scorpion, Jailhouse 41, and it was my introduction to Miko Kaji. It was my introduction to this series, and it just absolutely sparked a just passion for wanting to find these movies. Now, I believe this one is out of print. A nice fold-out little cover. I'm not as crazy about this style of cover, but this one is still in pretty good shape. I mean, where to start? Everything about this film blew my fucking mind. So it's 1972, Toy Studios. She does some singing in it. She's the main actress. Her character is almost like a Sergio Leone, man with no name. She doesn't speak. I think maybe she says one thing through the entire movie, which in itself is very cool. I mean, there's a lot of similarities. Obviously, the spaghetti westerns, I shouldn't say obviously, spaghetti westerns that were filmed in Italy got their influence from samurai movies. Samurai movies had a tone. They had these characters who were coming into town. They were mostly loners, and they were correcting rights and wrongs as kind of a basis, and then that was a jumping off point to kind of go from there and explore other territory. Most often in master swordsmen, same with in the spaghetti westerns, there were master gunslingers. So there was already that established style of character. Now, for it to be a female character that was that strong, let alone a Asian female character in the 70s, and this was a whole genre, this pinky violence and Roman pornos, the romantic pornos is what they call them, the softcore pornos, and the girl gang videos and stuff like that in movies. There was this whole movement in the probably late 60s and into the 70s where there was these really incredibly strong female characters. The movies were still interspersed with a lot of nudity and sexuality and sex and things like that, but for the most part, the females were portrayed as the strong ones with a voice and going out there and taking care of themselves, and the men were always these kind of pathetic, sniveling, whining perverts, really. So it's really, really cool to have that kind of balance going. because they knew how to market it really well. Because, I mean, basically the market that you're playing to is the perverts who are watching the movies, but they had this kind of room for all this other stuff. Again, it's all about like what these directors were allowed to get away with for a lot of these kind of movies. As long as they showed a pair of tits every 5 minutes or whatever it was, for the most part, the producers and some of the smaller companies didn't care what you put in the rest of the time. As long as you hit those marks with the nudity or with sex or whatever kind of criteria they had, you could make whatever kind of movie that you wanted. They really didn't care. They knew what their ultimate goal was. Their ultimate goal was to get the trench coat crowd into the theater, get their money, and get them out, and maybe do a couple of movies. If you kind of stumbled on something that was successful, you could do 4 or 5 movies and make even more money. So that's enough about that. So we get into this movie. The thing that specifically about this one blew my mind was it starts out as a women in prison film. It transitions to a kind of a jailbreak type of genre movie, goes into a horror movie, goes into a spaghetti western, goes into a revenge movie. So brilliantly, he hits all of the main notes of all these genres and manages to cram them all into one film. And maybe cramming is the wrong word. Shunya Ito was the director's name, because he didn't cram it because it didn't seem sloppy, it didn't seem haphazard. It was really, really specific, and it was really, really masterfully done. I've watched this movie I don't know how many times. Now that I'm doing this video, I guarantee I'll probably end up watching it tonight again just to relive it. There's just so many beautiful moments in this movie, and it's so well done. If you're a fan of kind of what are called genre pictures, which I'm not crazy about that term, but if you're a fan of like exploitation film or B movies or any of that sort of thing, hunt it down. Just hunt it down. And I'm looking at you, Big Shot. I'm looking at you, Spiro. I'm looking at you, Scott. All you guys, if you haven't seen this one and you have any sort of taste for, and everybody else too, any sort of taste for the different or the odd or genre pictures, just have a look for it. Again, American Cinematheque put this version out. This, let's see if it says what year it was released. It says 2000. So again, there's our friend Chris D with the liner notes from 2000. So I'm assuming that when the liner notes were written, it would have been about the same time that the movie got released, like on DVD. So it's a good 14 years old, and I'm sure by now there's been other versions. I haven't dug for any. The only time I'd update this is if there was a Blu-ray version with some more extra features, and that's the thing on this one. I think there's only a trailer on this one. So that was the second movie of the series, but it was the first one that I saw, and that was the other thing. You don't, maybe it's needless to say it, but I'll say it anyway, you don't need to watch these in any specific order. I think that they all stand on their own. It's not like there's some really epic tale going on here. There's sort of a story with any sort of serialized movie. You're following the character throughout, but this was the first one, and I got this a couple of years later. Female Prisoner 701 Scorpion, introduction to Sasori and the world and the women in prison, and this one takes place in prison. I believe there's a prison riot, so the only time that you're out of the prison is when some of the characters, including Sasori herself, are kind of not reminiscing, but kind of telling their story of how they got to where they are. And some of that is done beautifully as well with these kind of flashback storytelling techniques. So, female prisoner 701 Scorpion is a woman who was set up to take a fall. Wrongfully imprisoned, she is absolutely hell-bent on getting back at those who betrayed her. She must survive the treachery of imprisonment and the wickedness of an evil warden before she can complete her vengeance outside the prison walls. So maybe I'm wrong about that. At the end, I guess she gets out to exact some revenge. I thought that was solely in this second one. And now all of them are out on DVD, but before they all got released, my man at Cinema Sewer, Robin Bougie, put together a kind of pirated version of it that he sold on his website. And he had some friends do some cover art for him. Female Comic Scorpion, Beast Stable. A great... It's out of the three, it's my least favorite, but nothing on the DVD itself, just a DVD-R. It's my least favorite out of the three movies that I have, but it's still fantastic to see. This is her kind of out in the world now. A couple of shocking moments here and there, but overall I don't think this one does it as well as the first two, and then the fourth one I haven't seen at all. I haven't even seen it for sale, so I'm kind of hoping for one day I'm going to stumble upon some sort of box set of these on Blu-ray. So that's the female Convict Scorpion movies. I'd say the first two are absolutes, and out of the first two I'd say this is 100% essential viewing. Female Convict Scorpion, Jailhouse 41. Absolutely fucking brilliant. So now to finish up on the books, we'll kind of fly through these last ones here. This is Behind the Pink Curtain by a guy named Jasper Sharp, and it is the complete history of Japanese sex cinema. This is a newer one that I've bought. I don't think it's newer as far as when it came out. We have a great store here, a great bookstore, McNally Robinson. They started out down in kind of right downtown in what's now a coffee shop, so it was a really small little bookstore, and it was always amazing. They got more and more popular. They opened up a bigger store, and then they opened up a second store at Polo Park, which is our biggest mall in town. The Polo Park one didn't survive, so they eventually had to close it down. All the stock from there went to the one remaining spot, which is at Grant Park Shopping Mall. And it's a brilliant bookstore, and it's so good because they have some really great people working there who are ordering books and buying books and taking care of certain sections. And their film section has always been exceptionally well maintained, as well as their actual, like their graphic novel section and stuff too, to be honest. That whole kind of comic book section they have is fantastic. And they run the gamut, you know, kids movies and stuff, but they don't shy away from getting stuff like this in. So that's where I bought this. Long story short, I bought this book at McNally Robinson. And I'd heard about it for a while. And this is Fab Press, and this volume copyright 2008. Fab Press was responsible for putting out Robin Bougie's collected Cinema Sewer books, Rick Tremble's Motion Picture Purgatory. A friend of mine had a couple of books put out by them as well too. I don't know if there's a history of Canadian horror movies as well, but I'm not sure if that was Fab Press. Anyway, Fab Press is a UK-based company. I don't see the website. Oh, there it is. So www.fabpress.com, FABPRESS.com. So this is the first edition, published in 2008. So this one kind of, if you get into the genre, sooner or later, if you do like the 70s stuff, you'll discover their Pink movies, their kind of softcore and then got into kind of pornographic movies and stuff. So this one covers the whole span of the genre. So it's from its beginnings all the way up to the more recent movies when this one was, when this book was released. Again, just another book, gives you an overview of the directors, talks through the eras, talks through highlights of the genre and things. And then, of course, like a lot of these books do, they kind of start to wax all intelligent-like on what that means for the society as a whole, what these films meant for Japanese society and that sort of thing. So, but there you go. So there's a look. And then in the center, nudity will appear. You get some color pictures of some of the films. So there you go. If you're interested in films like this, it's thorough. It's very thorough. Kind of just gets right to the heart of things. Donald Ritchie's fantastic. 100 years of Japanese film. Really, really great. Concise history with a selective guide to videos and DVDs. This is an older one too. Let's see what year. I want to say kind of 2000, maybe a bit earlier. Let's see. Okay, well, 2001. So there you go. And it really, this doesn't go as much into exploitation and sex films and this is really about kind of the big names in Japanese cinema and how their kind of industry began, and talking about people like Ozu and people like that. So let's have a quick look. So from the beginnings, from film and theater, realism and reality, Western influences, Nikatsu, a couple of the studios they talk about, Expressionism, World War II, the occupation of Japan, post-war developments, advent of television and the film's defenses. So Suzuki is in here, I believe Seijun Suzuki is in here, and then they do talk a little bit about the new wave, Oshima, Yoshida, and Shinoda. And there you go. So documentary and anime, and then conclusion, and then a selective guide to videos and DVDs. So we'll go through that too. This one is definitely a more dense reading. This is really historical. This is really detailed. This is really going to tell you a lot of information. It's been a long time since I've read this. Again, it was another one I just kind of poured over when I was first discovering all these films and kind of making notes and who I wanted to see and what movies I wanted to hunt down, and a really, really good resource. But again, it's more for kind of classic and big hitters as far as the whole Japanese film industry is involved. A little bookmark in there. And let's have a quick look at the back for let's see. Here we go. So, looks like it kind of hits on some titles as well, with a very, very minor review and who released it. VHS, DVD, New Yorker Films. So there you go, there's a look at that. Selective guide to videos and DVDs, a whole nice big section there. So that's another great one if you're into it at all. Again, I don't know about the printing of any of these books, if they're out of print or if they're on second or third or fourth printings. So Kodansha International, Donald Ritchie. Let's see if there's any other information in here. www.thejapanpage.com, and yeah, published by Kodansha International Limited in Tokyo. So there you go. Another great one. And finally, if you know this director, you know, maybe have heard of this book, Agitator, The Cinema of Takashi Miike. Really, really good. I really love Miike's stuff. And the thing that I love the most about him is his attitude towards it all. As far as he always claims that he's not a fan of films. Do you have any favorite films? No, I don't watch movies. I don't like movies. Do you have any sort of thing you're trying to say with my movies? No, I'm just trying to entertain people. So he's really kind of modest about the whole thing. And he doesn't really want to talk about that sort of thing. The thing that impresses me the most about Miike is his kind of the fact that he covers so many different genres of movies. When I first was discovering his films, I was renting whatever I could find, and I wasn't doing a lot of reading about him, because there seemed to be a period of time where his movies were everywhere. I'm sure they still are now. I haven't followed his career closely for quite a few years. I'm sure you can still readily find them for rent or purchase at a lot of different spots. So because they were everywhere, I was just going out and renting them and not reading about it, just kind of going through A to Z in the Asian cult cinema section at Movie Village and renting the next one that was in line. So that way made it a lot of fun, because it's always a surprise of what you're going to get. Audition surprised the hell out of me. It's supposed to be a horror movie, but it's 95% drama till kind of the end, when all of a sudden it's absolutely fucking horrific. I was fortunate enough to see it. Also, I had already seen the DVD, and they had a screening of it at Cinematheque downtown. So I got to see it with an audience and a couple of friends of mine actually who hadn't seen it, and kind of ride the roller coaster with them, but knowing from the outside of what was coming. And when things finally hit, just seeing everybody freak out in the theater and people covering their eyes, and just brilliant. So you hit something like that, then you'll hit Ichi the Killer, which is just an absolute gore fest. Then you'll hit Happiness the Katakuris, which is a musical, kind of I don't know, it's hilarious. It's fantastic. Zebra Man, which is kind of like a superhero story. He's got some Yakuza picks as well. One that escapes me right now, but basically it's about a Yakuza transforming into a woman, I think, by the end of it. So dealing with kind of the homoerotic nature of some of these types of films and that sort of thing. Really, really inventive director. He'll film pretty much anything. He's another one of those guys that he's got kind of 3 or 4 movies going a year. And then doing stuff that's like historical dramas as well too, that are beautifully done. So he knows his stuff. I think with a lot of these guys, they end up working with the same kind of crew, so their films still have that same sort of feel. But he has such a handle on how he wants to present a story. He's got such a great group of actors that are willing to work with him time and time again. So this is just an entertaining book as far as talking about his career. And then here at the end you can see, again, talking about his films, who was in it, when it was released, where you can find it, if it's on DVD or if it's on VHS. Visitor Q was another really great one. Bird People in China, Full Metal Yakuza, Fudo, The Next Generation, Rainy Dog was great. Yeah, and there's so much that I haven't seen. And then there was some that I thought were absolute shit. I think it was Family and Family 2. I just didn't get anything out of it at all. It just didn't work for me. So there you go. There's a look at Takashi Miike. Maybe I'll leave that. Anyway, so there you go, and then some color pictures as well. So there you have it. Let's do a quick who did this one. Again, Fab Press. Hey, look at that. So www.fabpress.com, and it looks like this was This revised and updated edition, first published by Fab Press, January 2006. Originally published by Fab Press in July 2003. Second pressing published by Fab Press, April 2004. So this is 2006, and I guess it's been updated, probably just updating the catalog of movies, maybe updating some of the information as well. There you go, guys. Thank you very much for joining me, and please dig into the fantastic world of Japanese cult movies and exploitation movies, and search out these books. Like I said, if you're starting out, fantastic book to start out in. These are kind of like the beginner volumes there, which I'd highly recommend. And if you want kind of a history of everything, this is a great one. Fantastic if you're into the subgenre, you're a dirty pervert like myself. And then Takashi Miike if you want to read about him. And again, just do it. Just watch it. There's another close-up of the cover, just so it burns into your head. Just do it. Thanks very much, guys. We'll see you next time for some more Criterion goodness.